Sure, technological advances could lead to massive globalization, eventually eliminating the need to have separate nations. But how the would they eliminate races? What would people use for uncomfortable jokes or Facebook posts?
I don't know, interbreeding? I mean, if everybody becomes a cyborg, then doesn't race kind of become irrelevant?
We see that the Major is plugged in, but to where? This is essentially a foreign building to her, so does she drag around a generator with her?
Are you sure you actually watched this movie? Because you can clearly see that she's plugged into this. Now, I don't know exactly what it is, but it looks like it's some type of a radio transmitter. You can see the plugs going into it right down here.
少佐聞こえてる。お前ももうノイズが多いな。整理中なの。
The English dub of this has her saying, must be a loose wire, and the subtitles say, I'm on my period. I'd like to know how a cybernetic human has her period, or if she's making jokes, or what. I mean, whoever was responsible for the English dubs in this thought that was too f***ed up to say, and this is a movie with naked animated chicks and exploding heads.
Yeah, it's obviously a sarcastic joke, and also, the movie's doing this on purpose. The point is to make you think about the relationship between the human body and technology, and what that does to our identity.
に休暇が介入するのは後々まずいんじゃないのか?
This is a question that should have been asked long before the mission was already underway.
We don't know how much time has passed. It might be that they didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this mission. They might have just been given orders a couple of hours ago. Anyway, this is obviously small talk.
Japanese police officers in Japan have the word police spelled out in English on their uniform and helmet. Globalization, man!
What the fuck are you talking about? Modern Japanese police have the word police on their uniforms in English. Now, not all of them have it, but the police in metropolitan areas definitely do. They even have it on some of their cars. And this is Section 6. Later we find out that they specialize in diplomatic and foreign missions, so it would make a lot of sense for them in particular to have English on their uniforms. Also, they're going after a US ambassador. It kind of helps if the people that you're going after can read who you are.
Didn't you have large men with guns that literally just fired on the police force, so shouldn't that trump diplomatic immunity?
Except he didn't have them fire on the police. That's why he says this.
Stop it! Who told you to fire? Put your guns down now!
従って我が国は国際法に基づき彼を保護し連れ帰る権利を有する。
Movie describes international politics so well that it unintentionally inspired 60% of the Star Wars prequels.
I don't even get what the issue is here. It's like 2 lines of dialogue. Do you expect this movie to have nothing to do with politics? Oh, wait. This was just another bad joke, wasn't it?
窓の外だ! 撃て!
You know, shoot blindly out the window at an unseen target. That should kill whoever it is.
Well, from their point of view, they can't tell who or what is outside. Also, Miss Nitpick here. These people are shooting directly at the buildings on the other side of this highway. Are you telling me that none of those bullets hit innocent bystanders in those buildings?
Gotta admit, the optical camouflage is rad. Rad enough to even take a sin off. But let's assess this for a second. Why not always use optical camouflage?
Well, it isn't a widely available technology. Later we find out that only 3 sections have them, and there's strict laws in place about where and when you can use it. And also, it isn't perfect. Throughout the movie, we see that physical contact can disrupt and even shut down the optical camouflage. So it's not ideal for all situations, or even weather conditions.
Why not at least do it before someone could see it taking place? And if your camouflage has a person-shaped border, is it still camouflage?
What the fuck are you talking about? That makes no sense. Of course it's camouflage. Do you not know the definition of camouflage? That's like saying if a soldier or a hunter is wearing camouflage and it's shirt-shaped, that it doesn't count as camouflage.
Also, come on, there have to be better ways of assassinating the diplomat than the Major throwing herself off the top of the building, smashing to bits on the ground, and later getting reconstructed. This was the plan they came up with. The opening title sequence shows us the process of the Build a Warrior workshop, which instills us with a sense of wonder and a baffling boner.
What are you, 12? Look, your boners are your own issue. Maybe instead of just staring at some tits, you should be paying attention to the symbolism that's happening here. This opening scene is setting up a lot of themes that are going to be played throughout the movie. And don't worry, I'll make sure to point them out later.
The movie took great pains to show this character fully nude during her rebirth, but later found a comfy pajama for her to sleep in.
Wait a second, you're making a sin because she isn't naked? That's interesting, because later in the movie, you sin it for supposedly having gratuitous nudity. So somehow, this movie has too much gratuitous nudity, and somehow not enough gratuitous nudity. You wanna fucking explain that one to me?
34 seconds of staring at this skyline.
This isn't just an arbitrary shot. It's here for a reason. Right now, you should be thinking about what this shot is telling you. So let's break this down really quick, because this is something that the movie does a lot. This 130-something second shot is giving you so much information. The city symbolizes a lot of different things in this movie. Right now, it's setting up Motoko's feelings of isolation. We can see a city full of people, but it's far away from her and off in the distance. The rest of the room is dark, except for where she's sleeping, and that's lit by the city. It's showing us that because she is in a shell, she feels isolated and alone, and the bed symbolizes the last shreds of her humanity. The images in this scene also tie in with her diving scene. Now, you would have actually noticed this stuff if you were paying attention to the movie instead of paying attention to your boner. But nah, you don't need to pay attention to the movie, you're just, a movie critic.
Weirdly, this is Aramaki's happy to see you face.
Yeah, this is the first time that we see him. It's telling us a lot about his character. He is a stern, grumpy old man. How the fuck is visual storytelling a sin in your book?
おそらく彼女のゴーストをハッキングして階段を襲撃させるつもりだったんだろう。
I know they're now using this interpreter to track the Puppet Master, but how did they know she was hacked in the first place? And doesn't the Puppet Master know they're monkeying around with her noodle at this point?
I guess you were still dealing with that boner at this point, because they clearly say,
As a precaution, we put everyone attending the talks under surveillance.
Or did you just edit that part out on purpose so that you could have enough sins for this video? Also, he wouldn't know that they're doing anything to her brain, because he's still hacking into it.
So how much time do we have before this hacker breaks through her barrier program and reaches her ghost?
Roughly 2 hours. He's using an old-fashioned HA3 virus. After that, we'll have to break the connection to avoid any danger to the system.
Once again, this is clearly stated. And there's a possibility that this could all just be a decoy.
Think about it a minute. You have to figure he's either covering his tracks or decoying us. Even though a more current technique would be harder to trace, it might also arouse suspicion about Colonel Malice's role in this affair. Or maybe this is all an elaborate ruse to make us think in that direction. There's always a chance that Malice is a pawn in this setup.
Now you're stretching it. It's not like you have any hard evidence.
Nope, no evidence. Just a whisper.
非活動の経験のないデカ上がりでおまけに初対持ち電脳化はしてても脳みそは
This supposedly high-speed trip to find the guy who's hacking into the woman's brain is a perfect opportunity to learn all you need to know about Togusa.
Yes, because Togusa brings this up.
There's something I've wanted to ask ever since I started. Why did you transfer a guy like me from the police force?
Because we need a guy like you.
Not only is it a chance for us to learn more about Togusa, it also sets up what he does later in the movie, and it further helps set up the themes of the film. In this case, Motoko talks about how important change and diversity is.
If we all reacted the same way, we'd be predictable, and there's always more than one way to view a situation. What's true for the group is also true for the individual. It's simple. Over-specialize and you breed in weakness. It's slow death.
This is a core idea of the film.
A copy is just an identical image. There is the possibility that a single virus could destroy an entire set of systems, and copies do not give rise to variety and originality. Why continually repeat this cycle? Simply to survive by avoiding the weaknesses of an unchanging system, a unification, a complete commingling and fusion of our separate beings to create a new and unique entity. We will both undergo change, but there is nothing for either of us to lose.
Did you still have a boner at this point? Or do you just chronically not pay attention to movies?
Seriously, in the future, we can turn humans into cybernetic soldiers, but the graphics apparently use the hardware from the original Famicom.
Have you looked up modern-day maps? If you go on Google Maps or Waze, the maps basically look exactly the same. It's just that these maps have a green tint to them. In fact, they actually do more. They zoom in and it looks like they're getting satellite feeds out of it. What more do you want out of this? Oh, I think I know what you want. There. How about that?
運転もらうわよ
It's cool she can take over driving duties this way, but she seriously can't just tell this guy where to go and tell him to go faster.
Well, yeah, she could do that. But remember that scene that you complained about where we learned about Togusa? And we learned that his brain doesn't have as many cybernetic enhancements as hers? That means that her reflexes are better. And we can clearly see that this highway has heavy traffic. Also, she has the map right in her brain. So why wouldn't she drive?
運転返すぞ。
Damn girl, make up your mind.
Well, she gave him the wheel back. Number one, because she got them through traffic already, and they're within eyeshot of the garbage truck. And number two, right after she gives the wheel back to him, she pulls out her gun and gets it ready.
Where the hell did the garbage truck go? The evil hacker guy shot out the tires. That apparently makes the entire vehicle disappear? Man, the future's weird.
Okay, I'll admit, this scene isn't laid out the best, but we can clearly see that the garbage truck didn't disappear. Motoko tells Togusa to go arrest the two garbage men, and in this shot, you can see that the smoke from the blown up van is clearly on the left-hand side. That means that the van passed the garbage truck. And you can see in this shot that the garbage truck takes a very hard right-hand turn. In fact, it's already almost off screen. And this is a tight alley, so that means that it's almost hitting the wall at this point. So in this shot, the garbage truck is behind the van, right over there. And in this shot, it's also behind the van. It didn't disappear.
Again, why wouldn't you just be camouflaged all the time? And again, can we even call it camouflage with this kind of fatal flaw? How did this even get to market, Samsung?
What the fuck? You just contradicted yourself within 2 sins. How the fuck do you sin them for not using the camouflage all the time? And then you say the camouflage is total shit and it's basically useless. Pick one!
Why wouldn't you just be camouflaged all the time? Can we even call it camouflage with this kind of fatal flaw? How did this even get to market? Why wouldn't you just be camouflaged all the time? Can we even call it camouflage with this kind of fatal flaw? Bato's partner Ishikawa decided to peace out in the middle of a manhunt after the last stop because he needed a little me time.
So this is the second instance of this, and I'm not sure if these guys just don't pay attention to the movies that they're reviewing, or if they're editing this stuff out on purpose. Because just like that garbage truck, Ishikawa does not disappear. You can clearly hear Motoko telling him this.
Ishikawa, go check out the trash collectors' homes. Bateau, cut the truck off at its next stopping point.
Or I don't know, maybe you were just so pissed off that a woman was driving that you couldn't hear what she was saying. So right here, you see Bato by himself in the car because Ishikawa has already left. That's why he shows up by himself.
This kind of thing shows you how strong she is.
Wow, yet another contradiction. This doesn't show strength, it shows how heavy she is. Those two things aren't even close. And I know that you know that because later on you bring this scene up and you clearly state that this is showing how heavy and dense she is.
Earlier we saw that the Major is heavy and dense enough to bend a metal roof tile. This kind of thing shows you how strong she is, heavy and dense enough.
Pick one!
But wouldn't this be something you wouldn't want your lethal ninja computer badass to do? Wouldn't that kind of thing alert people to her presence?
This isn't a stealth mission anymore. Why does it matter she's alerting people to her presence? She's chasing down a dangerous gunman who is trying to hack into people's fucking brains. For all they know, this might be the Puppet Master, an extremely dangerous man. You don't need to be stealthy in this situation.
Also, otherworldly strength is shown by the aftermath of jumping on roof tiles cliché. Earlier we saw that the Major is heavy and dense enough to bend a metal roof tile. This function is pretty goddamn useless. I mean, what if he ducks into one of these also black buildings in the background? And also, that's racist.
Okay, let's put a pin in this one. I'm gonna bring it up later. All I'm gonna say for now is that this is a setup. It's giving you information that you're going to need later on.
Is the optical camouflage also bulletproof? Because if not, I'm calling bullshit on this dude being alive after that bullet barrage.
I don't know, I doubt it, but it's kind of irrelevant. That's because Motoko was not shooting at him. She was shooting at the water around him. Stealth can get overloaded when a lot of material comes in contact with it. She does this so that he can't sneak around anymore. Also, you can clearly see that the wall behind him doesn't have any bullet holes in it. So she wasn't aiming at him at all. She was only aiming directly at the water.
Parkour guy decides to stop parkouring and instead run right down the middle of the goddamn alley.
Let's put a pin in this one.
Gun Magazine is extremely specific about what number of remaining rounds it's prepared to tell you about, and extremely coy about it if it's not 14 or 8.
So this is the third time that he's done this. You send the Japanese police for having the English word police printed on their uniforms, which actual Japanese police have in real life. You also send the map system, which looks like modern day maps, and now you're sending this magazine, which, big surprise, this is exactly what magazines in real life look like. Now granted, most of the ones that I could find go in increments of 10 or 5, not in increments of 6. So that's a little bit weird, but still, what the fuck?
This guy is running at normal speed and the footage isn't slowed down, so this plane is specifically flying to be picturesque when you're a fugitive running down an alley. What's this fucko so happy about? He got through the city, sure, but there's a fucking body of water in front of him. It's not like he's any safer than he was when he was running through the alley.
Yeah, it's almost like the reason he's running down the alley, the reason that the plane is going slow like that, and the reason that he's looking at these buildings in a relieved way are all trying to tell you something. It's almost like it's symbolism. This scene is a continuation of the themes of the movie. Once again, it's using a visual medium to help convey very confusing and esoteric ideas. We see him come into this narrow alley. He's surrounded by buildings that are old and decaying, the past of humanity. He then has to travel through the old city, and he sees this plane that's flying away from him. Now this plane is symbolizing two things here. The obvious thing is that it's symbolizing his desire for escape, and the fact that escape is eluding him. It also ties to later themes about what the city symbolizes. I'll talk more about that when we get to that scene. So back to this alley. We see him pass through the old city, and then he emerges and he's relieved, because he sees the new city. This represents change and the best of humanity. In this scene, he sees that it's within his grasp, but it's not easily obtained. In fact, as you pointed out, there's a massive body of water in between him in the old city and the new city. In between, there's a gap, which in this case, he does not pass. We'll talk more about this a little bit later, but for right now, all you need to know is that this man's mind is hacked. So he fails to make it to the new city. He's left behind. He never ventures out into the water. He never tries to make it to the city. He is satisfied and contented with simply looking at it, unlike Motoko, who dives into the depths of these waters. She's exploring the gap between humanity's past and its potential future. We see that as she's coming to this realization, the city seems to be enveloping her. She is getting closer. She's come up from the depths, and she's getting ready to venture into this new city.
All of that blends to create a mixture that forms me and gives rise to my conscience. I feel confined, only free to expand myself within boundaries.
And that's when the puppet master first talks to her.
What we see now is like a dim image in a mirror.
Because this is her showing her first steps into a new evolution.
Why did you pick me?
Because we are more alike than you realize. We resemble each other's essence, mirror images of one another's psyche. Listen, I am connected to a vast network that has been beyond your reach and experience. To humans, it is like staring at the sun, a blinding brightness that conceals a source of great power. We have been subordinate to our limitations until now. The time has come to cast aside these bonds and to elevate our consciousness to a higher plane. It is time to become a part of all things.
The Major was prepared to fill this guy full of bullet holes in the previous scene, but now it's come to fisticuffs.
Well, I already addressed this. She wasn't trying to shoot him. And also the situation changed. Before he was in a crowd of people and he could have endangered them. So taking him out as quick as possible was the best course of action. But now they've isolated him. So why wouldn't you try to capture him and get as much information out of him as you possibly could?
I would love for someone to explain the rules of this optical camouflage to me. It's sometimes visible and sometimes not. Occasionally it'll flash color and other times it's the outline of the person. It even covers the hair when the plot demands it.
Well, I already addressed this. Throughout the movie, we see that physical contact can disrupt and even shut down the optical camouflage. So it's not ideal for all situations or even weather conditions. Okay, I'm not 100% sure why it covers her hair. I guess you got me there.
Man, this movie is about 80 minutes long, and I think roughly 35 of those minutes are spent on characters staring blankly at the screen for what seems like ages.
Yeah, it's almost like those blank stares mean something. I wonder what those blank stares could be telling us.
Wait a minute, where the hell is this helicopter landing? These people are in a canal surrounded on all sides by a sprawling city. Where the f*** is this goddamn park surrounded by a forest? Or is this movie saying that the helicopter noise is just a transition to the next scene? Because that shit is confusing.
Oh, Jesus Christ! You review movies. How are you confused by editing techniques? You see, this technique is called an L-cut. It's when you take audio from one scene and transition it into the next scene as a way for you to get from one to another. Here, I'll let Folding Ideas explain it. Also, you should go check out his video. His channel's amazing.
It might be quite subtle, like the sound of this door closing, trailing the cut by a matter of frames.
Retain even in opposition your capacity for astonishment.
So yes, it's two different helicopters in two different locations. You see, the way that you can tell this is because the fucking helicopters sound different.
Ghost in the Shell captures the longest walk from a helicopter ever, so that it can upload tons of exposition into your brain matter, and so that it can save money on animation at the same time. Also, movie spends several minutes surveilling this Lucius Malfoy asshole, even though he means absolutely nothing to the plot.
Yes, I'm sure that's partially it, but this scene is also doing something important. The way it's set up is calming you. It's drawing you into a sense of superiority. You know that this place is surrounded. You know that the police are in complete control. They're about to swarm in and arrest the guy. So you, like the police, feel dominant and in control. And that leads right up until oh my god, look at that. And at this moment, you realize that you are not in control. This man is yet another puppet, and the puppet master is still one step ahead of us.
He's only a puppet himself.
Yeah, we've been to your apartment, where for some reason you hung your clothes up on the ceiling and left the TV on.
See, now this is one of the things that's so frustrating about this video. He's able to pick out these tiny little details, but he's unable to realize the significance of them. Yes, the TV is turned on, but look at how this shot's framed. Out of this window, we have the city, and we already know what that symbolizes. And then next to it is a TV that's turned on. And notice that you cannot watch the TV and see the city at the same time. You have to choose one or the other. Are you going to look at and think about the things that are going to help humanity get to the next stage of evolution? Or are you going to be distracted by illusions? And on this TV, that's exactly what we see. We see an advertisement. Literally an illusion that has been created by a company to make you buy things. And make sure you pay attention to this dog. Look at its eyes. Those big, empty eyes. It kind of seems like we've seen those before. In fact, he's even commented on them. These expressions are always on the people who the puppet master has taken control of. They've given in to illusions, and it has destroyed them and led them astray, to the point that they can't even tell what is and isn't real anymore.
Yeah, we've been to your apartment, where for some reason you hung your clothes up on the ceiling and left the TV on. Sure, but how did they know he tried to show it to his colleague? Nobody else was in the truck, and the other dude didn't even look at it, and would have no idea which picture he tried to show him.
When they interrogated the other guy, they probably mentioned that the suspect doesn't actually have a wife or children, in which case the partner would have said, "No, he was talking about them all the time. He even tried to show me a picture." How many pictures do you think this guy's carrying on him? So it's just a simple process of elimination. You know, like detective work.
確かに映ってたんだ。
This dude is clearly still compromised since he continues to believe his memories are real, so why doesn't he still see his family in this picture like he did previously?
Again, if you were paying attention, you would already know. That's because in the previous scene, when you complained about this guy staring off into the distance, he wasn't just staring. His face was telling you something. It was telling you that as Bato and Motoko were challenging him by asking him specific details, he was realizing that he didn't know those details because his entire brain was white. And now he only has fragments of memories. Just enough for him to be able to function and do what the puppet master needed him to do.
Can you remember your mother's name or what she looks like? Or how about where you were born? Don't you have any happy childhood memories? Do you even know who you are?
So because of that scene, we should already know that people can realize that their memories are fake, and that's what's happening here. Tokusa is asking him very hard, detailed questions, and his brain can't keep up with it anymore. That's why he sees the picture for what it really is.
Also, does he still go to jail? I know he was under the influence and all, but he did aid and abet a criminal syndicate. How do they adjudicate these cases? Tell me about the future justice system movie. You're only 78 minutes long. You have time.
Yeah, it's almost like this movie wants you to think about those things. But shit, better make sure you sin a movie because it made you think.
Earlier we saw that the Major is heavy and dense enough to bend a metal roof tile, but here she's buoyant enough to float on water instead of sinking like a rock.
Now I really don't want to call CinemaSins a bunch of lying dirtbags who purposefully edit movies out of context so that they can have enough sins to pad out a 15-minute runtime. Mostly for purely legal reasons? So, I am simply saying that it is my opinion that they are a bunch of lying, scummy dirtbags who edit movies out of context when they can't come up with enough sins to pad out their 15-minute runtime. And it is my opinion that this is the case because, yet again, either they forgot that this scene existed, which don't worry, later I'm going to prove that they didn't forget what the scene was because they later bring that scene up. Or they could have possibly used a strategic edit in order to create a sin that didn't actually exist. So to clarify, the reason that she can float is because she has this floating device on her back. And later, Bato refers to floaters, which implies that there are other floating mechanisms on this rig that we just can't see.
Isn't there anything that you're afraid of? What if the floaters don't work or something else fails?
I suppose I'll die then.
Also, aside from swimming in a probably polluted ocean, this is an excellent habit.
What if the floaters don't work or something else fails?
Sinking like a rock.
I suppose I'll die then.
This is an excellent habit, sinking like a rock. So, is the voice the Major, or is it the ghost? Or is it the puppet master? Or is it some combination of one or two or all of those things? Look, this movie is cool and all, but it's one of the most confusing movies I've ever watched, and I saw Inherent Vice.
Now, I'll fully admit here, this movie is quite confusing. There are a lot of complex ideas that are being talked about here, not only with these long philosophical discussions, but also with the visuals. I don't know, maybe different tastes here. CinemaSins likes to sin a movie because it's complex enough that you need to watch it more than once to get everything out of it. On the other hand, I enjoy movies like this, and I don't need every movie to be like this to enjoy it. Actually, that would probably be pretty awful. But when there are movies like this that you can watch again and again and again, and every time you do, you discover something new. It shows a new side of itself. It makes you think about something different. Those are rewarding movies. Those are movies that engage me, that I want to watch over and over again. Or you could just sin it.
Literally 3 minutes of beautiful imagery and a haunting chorus, and I'm confused whether to remove sins for its awesomeness or add one for wasting my time with its awesomeness. It's at times like this you gotta ask, what would a dick do?
This scene is not wasting your time. Every shot in this scene is telling you something. It's important. Now, I could do a breakdown of just this scene that would probably be close to an hour. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that. We're just going to look at a few shots from this. Now, something that you'll see about this city is that it's a city in transition. You see a lot of old buildings that are under construction. This is touching on one of the film's themes, about having to grow and evolve. Unlike the old, worn-down city that we previously saw, this part of the city is in the process of rebirth and renewal. It's in the process of change. That's why Motoko is in this part of the city, because she too is starting her process of changing. So I want to look at just two scenes in particular here. This one where we see a woman that looks exactly like Motoko. Now this could be a woman that just happened to get the same shell as Motoko. Or it could be a hallucination. And it's once again illustrating Motoko's feelings of a loss of identity. And then there is this dog, which looks very familiar to the dog that we saw in that commercial. Then after we see the dog, we see a shot of a storefront. Once again, a link to human-created illusions, the desire to buy clothing, and advertising that tries to sell you things. And then in the window, we see that the mannequin looks exactly like Motoko. So we now have two examples. We have one example of a human that looks like Motoko, and of a facsimile that looks like Motoko. Both parts of her personality, and it's symbolizing the struggle within her. And within this, we also illustrate the trap. In this time of change, will she manage to transcend and become more than human? Or will she be trapped like the other humans that we've seen, who have fallen prey to illusions? Finally, we see these mannequins, and after we see them, it cuts to this image. Now later we find out that this is actually the puppet master. This is showing us that out of human creations, spontaneously, a new form of intelligence has evolved. And we can tell that between these two shots, from a dead, lifeless mannequin to the puppet master. But he didn't focus on any of these things. Instead, he focused on a plane that was too close to a building, a bunch of people running who had yellow umbrellas, and the name of some random store. I'm starting to understand why you have such a problem understanding this movie.
Seriously, dude? You saw this chick way back there and started honking instead of slamming on your brakes? Were you attempting a catcall?
Granted, he doesn't slam on his brakes right away, but he does slam on his brakes. You can clearly hear them here.
This lady's eye camera has a built-in zoom and enhance cliche.
Oh god. That's not even how zoom and enhance works. The zoom and enhance cliche is when someone zooms into an image that has a limited amount of pixels and then creates new pixels out of nowhere. But it all depends on what the resolution is. For example, look at this high resolution image. When I zoom in, you can still see a lot of detail. Now, look at this same image. This one's at a lower resolution. When you zoom in, there's less detail. She has high-performance cyborg eyes. Those things probably have massive pixels in them. You not knowing what a cliche is cliche.
What
does being late have to do with it? Why do you need to explain anything to somebody when they are a cyborg connected to a network, and you can easily debrief them about the cyborg without briefs?
The reason that he's briefing her is so that we can know what's happening. The audience needs to be able to learn with Motoko. If she just got an information dump, we wouldn't be able to learn anything.
Something we didn't think was relevant to mention when you were recently briefed on this case that's mostly about megatech.
Well, at this point, we don't actually know that this is important to the case. This is illustrating that it's important to the members of Section 9 personally.
In an amazing display of police intuition, Togusa decides to intuit hard on the Section 6 people who just walked in because of something, a little something.
There's no intuition here. It's a clear line of reason. That's because Togusa asked about the both of them while they were going down the elevator.
Hey, I've seen that fat guy before.
His name's Nakamura, Section 6 Chief with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I don't know the other guy, though. Never seen him.
At this point, he became suspicious of them. Then, when he got to the garage, he noticed 2 cars. He also noticed that there were no drivers in them, and government officials generally don't drive themselves. So that's why he looks at the security cameras first, to see if the drivers came in the building with them. When he pulls up the footage, he sees that the two people were alone, meaning that the drivers were missing. He then calls up for an infrared screen. Keep that in mind. Now nothing's picked up, but he does notice that the elevator doors took too long to close. Now granted, that's kind of a weird thing to notice. I mean, I don't think I know how long it takes for an elevator door to shut. But either way, he notices it. That's when he checks the pressure plates of the cars when they drove into the building. At that point, he notices that the cars were too heavy and must have had other people in them. Then he puts everything together, and the most logical outcome is that there are two people in stealth camouflage that snuck into the building. No intuition needed.
Gentlemen, we've decided to show you this cyborg torso by maintaining a little bit of the eroticism such a display requires.
Okay, I think you might actually have a 12-year-old's brain in your body. When you go to the art gallery, do you also find those sculptures erotic? I mean, look, I don't kink shame. If your thing is legless, armless women, then go for it. But don't sin it just because it's making you oddly hard again.
And a baffling boner. You know what? This is awesome. Super awesome. But I'm still wondering why, in this world, anyone like this even needs to type at all. Like, you can't just jack into the computer and upload a whole bunch of instructions?
Well, once again, in that conversation where we learned about Togasa, which you sinned, we learned that apart from a few brain implants, Togasa has no enhancements. So that means that there are a lot of people who might not even have a cyber brain. Those people wouldn't have the ability to hook up to a computer.
There aren't any cyborgs in Section 6. They don't even ship them to serve overseas because they're too hard to maintain. There's diplomatic considerations too.
Maybe this guy just likes to be retro. Or because he knows that this is the Puppet Master, maybe he's smart enough to not plug into a computer that the Puppet Master could easily hack into.
Why are his sensors on? What the hell is this?
All external controls are turned off. The body's using its own power source.
Oh yeah, like that.
And we'll
need to do it here, out loud, directly in front of this still sentient and nefarious cyborg.
He's not saying that he needs the information right this second. That wouldn't even make sense. There's like a ton of people standing around. Right now, he's just pointing out that there needs to be a disclosure of information at some point.
We interrupt this classified government agency attempting to eliminate a dangerous hacker to bring you a high school biology class.
Okay, so once again, this is another important scene. It's not just high school biology. He's making a parallel between his new form of consciousness and the old form of humans. All biological creatures exist because of genes. Those genes, in and of themselves, are not conscious. But when you get enough of them together, they form life that can be conscious. The Puppet Master parallels this to information. Information on its own isn't intelligent, but apparently if you get enough of it together and interlink all of it, it can form something that is conscious. This is a massive theme of this movie. How did you not get this?
Even with optical camouflage, there's no way somebody could have worked their way through that explosion, unhooked the cables and restraints from the Puppet Master's body, then popped out of there without anyone noticing.
Well, first off, they were already in the room. Secondly, it wasn't an explosion. It was a smoke bomb. You can see how close they are. Right here, you can see their muzzle flashes. So that was like 2 steps to pull the Puppet Master out. I doubt they went through and pulled out each plug individually. They probably just yanked him out.
Wait, was that the plan? You mean almost getting killed a second ago was part of some grand scheme to perfectly time a dump truck so that you could switch your gun from regular bullets to tracking device bullets? Okay, I guess I won't question this obviously amazing plan since it worked.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that crazy of a plan. They had a ton of time to set this up. Togasa fires a whole bunch of rounds at the car to disguise the fact that he hits it with a tracer later. Motoko even points out that they don't want to capture them right away. They want to see where they're going so that they can finger Section 6.
So you can track them extra hard next time.
Or for redundancy, if they only have one tracer in, what if it falls out? It's always better to have a backup.
あれを使ってるのはうちとレンジャー4か。
The Major is positive about this, but didn't bring it up when she clearly saw that punk from the earlier chase using the same technology.
Okay, so remember how I told you to remember that one scene with the camouflage? Now we're going to talk about it. So the reason that this display is important is because it's an infrared, and we can clearly see here that this model of camouflage does not reflect or bend infrared light. That's why he shows up as this black blob instead of all of the other people around him who are lit up bright red. Later we can see what his camouflage looks like. It basically looks like a trench coat. It looks nothing like the type of camouflage that Motoko uses. Hers is skin tight, and she also has this veil that she wears over her face. Now, when Togusa checks the infrared cameras, remember how you didn't see anything? That's because their camouflage works better. It's a military grade. For all we know, it might be the only type of camouflage that doesn't show up on infrared.
As the bad guys talk about the assassins switching cars, we have no clue if the heroes know this or not. The last time we saw the good guys, they were following the car and hoping to catch them before they switched, but we never find out what the heroes know during this chase, making it confusing.
Yet another instance of deceptive editing or sheer incompetence, because later in the movie, this scene happens.
Target has contacted a second vehicle.
They've pulled up to a white sedan parked on the roadside. It looks like they're moving something from the back seat. They're rolling again. So's the white sedan.
A dummy?
Possibly, or maybe that's what they want us to think. Kusanagi?
I'll take care of the sedan.
How do you know that's your man? Is there a whisper in your ghost again?
Maybe.
Yeah, should have known.
外相通訳のゴーストハックにしても、マレスを送還する口実を欲しがってたのは外務省でしょ。俺たちかまされたのかもしれません。
This is where the movie is in total f***ing confusion overdrive. Who is Maris? We saw the government guys talking about him earlier, and he's seeking asylum. But why was the foreign ministry so hell-bent on deporting him? Deporting him meant sending financial aid to a country they didn't want to send money to. Also remember, we have a computer programmer who was also seeking asylum at the beginning of the movie, just before that scene in the elevator. If you remember the name Daida and anything about what he looks like, congratulations, you remember the one shot in this movie where his face is visible.
Yes. The only time that you see his face. It's too bad that they don't show his face again and explain who he was so that we could remember. But that scene definitely didn't happen in the movie. You surely didn't edit that out.
Mr. Mizuho Daita. Remember him? He's the guy Section 6 tried like hell to stop from defecting, so the Major dropped in and took care of the diplomat who'd been talking to him. This is our man.
人形使いの正体が外務省が外交上の横車を押すために作り上げたプログラムであり、それが何らかの原因で制御できなくなって。
Puppet Master was chatting with Aramaki and Nakamura for several minutes, and he was all, I'm going to teach you about science and consciousness and instead of immediately telling everyone the secret about what he was, which would really bolster his whole asylum request.
Well, that's not true at all. Aramaki even says that he would have given him over despite the fact that he knew he was an AI. Motoko knows this too.
I'd have handed him over. All I wanted was to take a deposition.
This might be our last chance to get the Puppet Master. The Chief knows what it is now, and he'll only use it to bargain with.
Even if the Puppet Master didn't know this, there's no reason to use your trump card right away. You hold on to that.
How the f*** does falling glass disrupt the f***ing optical camouflage? It's literally material, not a f***ing force field, and shouldn't be affected by inanimate objects raining down on it.
How many times have you seen camouflage used now? How do you not understand how this works yet?
Also, how did they get a f***ing tank up in this room?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe through these gigantic fucking doors.
Also, this tank decided to stop successfully tanking just because it got a little bit of shit dropped on it.
That's not why it stopped. Currently, it has her pinned down behind a reinforced column. We can see that this weapon can't shoot through this, so there's no point in wasting ammunition until she gets out. And if she doesn't get out, that's just helping the tank, because it's allowing backup to come. It's almost like it's strategy.
Also, if you're gonna bring a tank up here in anticipation of a gun battle, why cover it up with camouflage? Be proud of that.
Oh, I don't know, maybe because they were trying to set up an ambush?
They could be laying an ambush.
Have you never heard of a little thing called
the element of surprise?
An ambush.
Element of surprise.
An ambush.
Element of surprise.
This tank thing has rockets, but only uses them every once in a while.
Well, we don't know how many rockets this thing has. It's possible that it only had the one shot.
So now is the perfect time to use my camouflage. That would have been great if I'd used it when it was shooting at me.
Yeah, you see, once again, this is strategy. The tank is in the middle of this wide open area, and as we've already seen, the camouflage doesn't do too well in water. She knew that the tank would most likely see her, so that's why she keeps on this body armor. When she's dealing with these big-ass cannons, it probably won't stop the bullet, but it would be better than nothing. Then she disables one of the guns and eggs the tank on to waste this ammunition. Once this happens, she takes off the body armor and uses stealth to give her a split-second advantage, which is enough to help her get onto the tank. She was saving it because she knew that there were secondary weapons. See, you can see them right there.
Good to see R2-D2 could make it into this movie somehow without infringing on copyright.
What the fuck? That looks nothing like R2-D2. The fuck are you talking about?
Didn't the Major just say this thing was out of bullets? Or did this tank thing use the old, I'll pretend like one of my turrets is broken, then run out of bullets on another turret, so that I can use the fake-out turret later method?
No, it has a long range and a short range capability. You know, like the thing that most tanks have.
Oh good, they found a way to work one more nude scene into this movie. This time with 25% less appendages.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a motif going on here. You know, like the movie's been constantly drawing parallels between how the two of them are the same. That's why through her sacrifice, she ends up looking like this. Very similar to what the Puppet Master looks like. That's why they look very similar to each other when they're placed side by side. It's showing the step that they're taking together, how they're becoming more and more alike. Bato puts a jacket over Motoko because he views her as being a person. But when they link, the Puppet Master swaps them. The Puppet Master becomes Motoko, and Motoko is trapped inside the Puppet Master's body. This is a prelude to them merging. There's a theme throughout the movie that sacrifice is needed for change. This theme of destruction and rebirth is played multiple times. We see it in the Puppet Master, and we see it at the beginning of the movie with Motoko's destruction and rebirth. Hey, it's almost like there was a reason why she jumped off that building and destroyed herself. Ha! When the two of them merge, both of their bodies are destroyed. And we see them reborn as this child. From this new vantage point, she can see everything. She can understand it all. And she is finally capable of reaching the city.
Batu comes in as a literal deus ex machina to save the Major.
Hey, you didn't disappoint me. I was worried that we weren't going to get a fake Deus Ex Machina. This seems to be a bit of a running theme with you. This isn't a Deus Ex Machina, because we see Bato leaving to go after Motoko. He then radios in, and at that point he finds out that there's a tank involved, and that Motoko does not have a chance against it.
So, what have you got?
An M23 and a Unit B.
That's it? You can't even dent a tank with that.
I'm switching off for a while.
What? Don't you dare disconnect me!
It's even explained why he's late.
What the hell did you use?
Your standard issue, big gun. The equipment section made it, and now it's part of my private collection. I was late because I had to get it.
You either forgot that these scenes happened, or you purposefully did a strategic edit so that you could once again flaunt your stupidity at not knowing what things mean.
お前が奴を取り込んでるのか奴がお前を組み込んでるのかどっち
バト
やっと君にチャンネルでき
This is great, because it'll save the animators a ton of work.
Well, that, and it's showing Motoko's loss of control, and the flashing light is symbolizing her getting closer to enlightenment. But I'm sure that was just to save money.
私は自分を生命体だと言ったが現状ではそれはまだ不完全なものに過ぎない
The Puppet Master wants to be a real person so he can f***ing die.
Well, no, he recognizes himself as a real person. He states that multiple times.
I refer to myself as an intelligent life form because I am sentient and am able to recognize my own existence. As a sentient life form, I hereby demand political asylum.
Nonsense! This babble offers no proof at all that you're a living, thinking life form.
And can you offer me proof of your existence? How can you, when neither modern science nor philosophy can explain what life is? I am a living, thinking entity who was created in the sea of information.
He's pointing out that both types of consciousness are incomplete. His synthetic kind needs something from humanity, and humanity needs something from the synthetic intelligence.
Gotta tell you, I've heard some bad pickup lines, but this is up there, especially coming from a computer program that hacked into a woman that's torn in half, then occupied the brain of its chosen mate and propositioning the erstwhile half-woman. I mean, it's still not as bad as You Must Be from Tennessee, cause you're the only 10 I see, but damn.
Oh god, your attempts at jokes fucking hurt my brain.
Which will take roughly enough time for the Puppet Master to convince the Major to fuse with him, so no rush.
Okay, don't worry. I found those scenes that you forgot to put in. You know, the scene where the Puppet Master hacks the helicopters so that they can't target them? Hurry up and put the scenes in before you look like a stupid jackass for lying about how the movie works.
Perhaps if you were familiar with all my capabilities, you would better understand.
Damn! What? Someone's interfering from the outside. Shit! I can't figure it out. They broke through our frequency code.
I don't know what's more prevalent and gratuitous in this movie, animated nudity or mentions of diplomacy. Movie took great pains to show this character fully nude during her rebirth, but later found a comfy pajama for her to sleep in. You know, for a movie as cool as this, there sure is a lot of explaining going on. The movie left us with all hope dashed. Explanation ex machina?
Way to end it on a high note, man. Go out with that ex machina that isn't a real ex machina.
This is another puppet controlled by the Puppet Master.
You stupid dickhead.
Huh?